This is what I love about HR. You learn these little intricacies about people. Margaret's gonna show us the meaning of trust.
Honey, what am I really doing this summer? I mean, I sent the kids away to camp. I'm redesigning bathrooms.
Think Brooklyn, exposed brick, and a urinal.
Meg wants me standing up again.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, see him looking at me.
Hello and welcome to Frame by Frame.
The only film and TV review show on the internet hosted by us.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Nick, and this week, guys, move over Kardashians because we are keeping up with the Joneses.
So, directed by Greg Mottola, Keeping Up with the Joneses stars Zach Galifianakis and Isla Fisher as a happy suburban couple living in a nice, neat and peaceful cul-de-sac. But then some very swish, kind of glamorous people move into the neighbourhood called the Joneses, played by Jon Hamm and Gal Gadot. Isla Fisher's character Karen starts to spy on these new neighbours because things aren't quite what they seem, and things kind of escalate from there.
I told you something was off about the Joneses. They're not who they say they are. Gotta go.
Just stick to your routine. No, you're absolutely right. Hello, Karen.
Natalie, what a surprise. You've got no clothes on, you're on the phone. I'm gonna go.
To be continued. I was just leaving Tim a voicemail.
Oh.
He likes to hear from me when I'm trying on lingerie. Yeah, it's one of our things. Keeps the spark alive. Do you and Jeff have a thing?
Yes, Jeff and I have a thing. We do it really fast in case the kids come running into our room.
All right, Nick, so I think for me this movie was mildly entertaining, but probably with an emphasis on the mildly.
I put this to you at the start of the episode. To me, it was very much like vanilla ice cream as far as movies go. Like, it was nothing special. I mean, sure, it was still ice cream, so it was decent as much as, a big budget film's going to be with a good cast. Obviously, Zach Galifianakis, Jon Hamm, big actors at the moment. However, at the end of the day, it's nothing special. And I know we say that about a lot of films over this period just because it's been a quieter summer for us, or heading into it. But it just wasn't kicking any goals for me.
Yeah, there was, a couple of funny moments, but I think for a comedy film, I probably would have liked more laughs. I remember probably 2 or 3 things I actually laughed at, and then probably 1 or 2 others were ruined by the trailer, which seems to happen a lot lately. And I don't think they got the best out of what was a pretty good cast.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. A lot of the cast were sort of underutilised, smaller roles, issued to, funny actors who probably could have had a bigger play at the end of it all. And I mean, as a whole, you're right saying underutilised. Zach Galifianakis obviously, reached probably his peak fame with, The Hangover, which was obviously a great comedy, and he hasn't really been in a role since then that's, been able to capitalise on that.
Well, in this one, he kind of plays a kind of a schlubby office worker who's a bit more of a straight guy, a bit more of a doofus almost, and it's not quite suiting his style of being that kind of quirky outsider that he does so well. So yeah, I think maybe the script let him down a little bit, that he didn't have that much to work with, but who is a really funny actor. And Gal Gadot's character, I think, was probably a little bit underwritten.
I would heavily agree with that.
Yeah.
Of the two, Gal Gadot and Jon Hamm's characters, well, they're obviously the couple of the film, they're the Joneses, and throughout the film, you'd expect, as with most Hollywood blockbusters, to see some sort of character development, but there really isn't a heck of a lot, especially in the way of this couple. And there are some small, slightly noticeable changes that they make throughout, but come the end, they're really just back at square one where they are at the start, whereas the couple, Zach Galifianakis and Isla Fisher, they have changed at least somewhat more than these guys have.
Yeah, on that point, Nick, I think you're right that they're kind of, there's a few times in the movie where the Joneses, the spy couple, kind of started to maybe hint that they weren't so happy in this life of being a spy, and I thought that was probably underexplored. The script didn't really go there when it could have, and could have made it an interesting part of the film.
They only briefly at points throughout the film reference, past, misadventures they've been on, how the two actually became, husband and wife. And I think that the backstory of those characters would actually be a lot more interesting than sort of what we saw them doing in the film. And if we hadn't been able to explore that, it would have, given us a bit of that character development that, there wasn't enough of.
But I've seen some really poor reviews of the film, and I think that's a bit harsh. It's not terrible. It's probably just a bit generic, and it's watchable, and I found it okay.
It's one of those films that if you had nothing to do, it was on a Saturday night, and it was just on TV, or you're on a plane. It's one of those movies where it's aesthetically it's quite good, shot well, good actors. There are some laughs. Again, it's not going to go down in history as the funniest film ever. I can't imagine it's going to be anyone's favourite film, but it's still decent enough to watch nonetheless.
Gaffney, you ready for level 4 security clearance?
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Carl.
Yeah.
Got like a red dot on your forehead.
Yeah, it's called adult acne. Thank you very much.
Oh!
I'm in a hit! I'm in a hit! I'm in a hit!
Are you hurt?
I've been shot. Oh, God. No, honey, it's just a latte.
It burns, it burns.
It's a Joneses! Let's run for Carl's house. Oh, God!
When I get killed out here, get in the car.
Why, so you can kill us in there?
I said, get in the car.
We're gonna get in the car.
Guys, now.
When I count to 3, we're gonna run, okay? 1, 2. Jeff!
Oh my God.
I said 3!
Jeff, please, would you just get in the car?
I was making a head start. On your wife?
All right, so one of the most anticipated premieres probably of the new American TV season, Nick, is The Walking Dead, coming back for the 7th season, I believe.
For season 7, yeah, they've made a comeback and they did it in spectacular fashion, obviously. People, if you haven't seen the episode and you have been on no social media whatsoever during the week, I don't know what world you're living in, but my Facebook feed, Instagram, everything's been flooded with, post after post of like people who have just watched the episode, stuff that's happened on it. So it was a big episode, especially in the world of TV, but especially in the world of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, and I think the reason why it was so big is because of the big cliffhanger. So people that haven't seen it, at the end of season 6, they left it on a really big cliffhanger. So people have been waiting, 8 months or something like that to finally get a resolution to that.
It's been pretty big, pretty crazy. And I don't think this spoils anything in the sense that the season 6 cliffhanger that it ends off on is one of the main characters is beaten to death with a baseball bat, and you see it from the point of view of the person actually getting attacked. And so the part we're left on is who actually was the person to ultimately die.
And so that's probably brings me to some of my problems with the first episode. I think you liked it a lot, but I had a few problems with it. I think probably the way that they kind of arbitrarily decided we're going to kill someone, it was a bit of kind of the eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or almost like a spin the bottle kind of going to kill someone. It seemed a bit too much just like a writer's kind of manipulating the plot, saying like, who can we kill today kind of thing. I would have liked it if the storyline was a little bit more organic and this death actually happened through a bit more of a slow build-up and a bit more plot rather than just, all right, who are we going to kill off now?
I mean, I can understand that coming from the perspective of just having watched the show. I've read the comics every month they come out, and this is actually one of the, across the series, people would know as well that The Walking Dead doesn't necessarily stay true to the source material, but I found this episode to be one of the perhaps more accurate episodes or depictions of what actually happens in the book. So the eeny, meeny, miny, mo is actually like what happens. So that's why it might seem strange coming out of nowhere, but it's just part of the new character, the Negan, who's going to be the bad guy for this season, to go put it up to luck and let sort of things decide themselves from there. But yeah, I did really enjoy this because it was so true to the source material, and I thought that going into it, I was not expecting it to be the case. I know that in the past, when big events have occurred in the comic books, the TV show hasn't necessarily followed suit, but it was kind of refreshing to see, the producers of the show decide that, this is the way it has to be, and we're going to make it like the, book as much as we can right now.
Yeah, I think that's probably a bit of a difference between you and I and people who have read the comics and who haven't read the comics. Yeah. You've probably got a bit of a deeper level of enjoyment from the show, having read the books or the graphic novels, but me, who's not a comic book reader, probably think that the show just relies on kind of shock value and, death. It's almost become a bit too monotonous for me, the deaths in the scene. It's like there's people dying kind of, every season there's more big deaths, and kind of get a bit desensitized to it, and they're just trying to shock the audience without much plot or character development.
I can agree with that, seeing it from your perspective there. And one of the biggest criticisms of this episode over the last week since its release on Monday has been that, like, shock value, no doubt, just like overly gory and unnecessarily violent, even by The Walking Dead standards. And because they've stayed true to the source material, that's why it's been that way. But I really just think that, again, coming from that comic book perspective, it does act as a really good precursor as to what the chaos and the inhumane nature of Negan and what to expect from his coming season.
Yeah, and I guess every time there's a death, there's obviously new cast members added, and this season it looks like Negan is going to be the new villain, and he's actually quite a convincing character, I thought.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, great casting as Negan. We saw him in the very final episode of season 6, and we've seen him come back for obviously the premiere of this season. And even though he's only been given brief amounts of screen time in relation to the whole show as with all the other characters and whatnot, he has made massive statements coming on. Got quite a strong presence on the screen, and I think that comes from just obviously he's in a very dominant position in regards to our protagonists and whatnot. But my God, I've really enjoyed seeing him for the 2 episodes so far.
So, in the past I've been kind of a semi-fan of the show. I kind of like the gory absurdity of it all and, the silly characters and things. But maybe I'm getting a little tired of it in 7th season. It's maybe getting a little repetitive for me. But I take it that this first episode is really setting up what is to come.
And I think that you should at the very least, before you decide whether or not hey, maybe I'll give up on this show or not, stick it out through this season. The reason why I say that is because in previous seasons, through the first 6, Rick and the gang have come up against adversity and stuff, but they've never really actively been set out to be less than their adversaries. So they've had bad guys, yes, and whatnot, but they've obviously always been along the lines of there's an easy way we can defeat them. Sure, because that's obviously we want to be on the side of the good guys. But this episode starts by just absolutely hammering down on the protagonist. And from an audience perspective and not knowing the comic books, it's really hard to believe and hard to imagine how our guys are going to get out of this one.
What? Was the joke that bad? I'm gonna kill you.
What?
I didn't quite catch that. You're gonna have to speak up. Not today. Not tomorrow. But I'm gonna kill you.
All right, Nick, well, sweet Christmas. We've run out of time already.
Yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of Frame by Frame. I'm Nick.
I'm Jim, and we'll see you next week.